clear, but this is again the importance of hydration for anyone over the age of 50. This is supposed to be healthy tips for you guys to stay hydrated throughout anything that we're doing. It's not just for exercise, but this is really just to explain the importance of why we should be drinking water throughout the entire day. It's not just supposed to be during exercise. We want to make sure that we're keeping ourselves hydrated throughout the entire day. So, without further ado, what I want to start off with is just some facts about water. So, what you see here is water is the body's principal chemical component. So that means about 60% of our body weight is made up of water. It's a very significant amount. That's how important it is for us to maintain this water balance. So water carries nutrients and oxygen to our cells. So that again just helps with muscles, movement. It's going to help lubricate our joints. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But water also helps get rid of waste through urination, perspiration, and bowel movements. That's going to help ourselves feel better throughout the day. What it's also going to help do is regulate our body temperature. For me right now, I'm a little cold, I'm a little hot, but water is definitely going to help you maintain that balance so you don't get overheated or hypothermic. Those are some issues that we can have within the body if we're not careful. So what water's also going to do is it's also going to normalize our blood pressure. I'm going to touch on this a lot because that's extremely important for when we're exercising. We need to make sure that our blood pressure isn't too high or it's too low. We want to make sure we have a good maintaining blood pressure, especially during exercise. Water is also going to help stabilize our heart rate. I know some of my clients who have AFib, I think of you guys, and we want to make sure that drinking enough and staying hydrated is going to help you maintain a stable heart rate. So, like I said before, water is going to help us lubricate our joints. This is extremely important for exercise, and I'll touch on that in a little bit. Water is also going to help us protect sensitive tissues, and it's also going to help us maintain an electrolyte balance, especially for sodium. Sodium is highly important for maintaining water in and around our cells. This is important for anyone who has heart concerns or anything, but it's also very important for nerve and muscle function. So that is also to help us maintain that stable blood pressure. Again, if anybody has any comments or concerns, please feel free to write them in the section there. So moving along, what I have here on the side, I'm going to step out here, but I wanted to outline for everyone that all of this is very important, but certain concerns that we have about dehydration are more important to those who are over the age of 50. So are getting rid of waste, regulating our temperature, blood pressure, heart rate. That is important as we age because of the concerns that dehydration can bring us. So, how much water do we need? Now, I wanted to bring this up right in the very beginning of the presentation because this is a question that myself, Danielle, Julia, all of us at every joint effort location gets asked constantly. Because water is so important to us, we automatically think, there is an answer for everybody. But the biggest problem is it's a simple question with no correct answer. Just like exercise, like nutrition, it's going to vary person by person. So we want to make sure that if you have any concerns about how much water you should be taking, and I have some standards that I'm going to be going through later in the presentation, but if you have any concerns about whether you're drinking enough, whether you're drinking too much, because that is a thing, please speak to your medical professional. Your doctor, they will definitely have more answers for you because there's a lot of factors that affect the way that we lose water. Again, urination, perspiration, breathing, but it's going to vary those who are on a diuretic, other blood pressure medications that are going to affect your kidneys. So please make sure, if you have any questions about how much you really should be drinking for you personally, please contact a doctor, because they will be able to give you a more appropriate answer for you. So, what is the importance of water and staying hydrated when we exercise? Bottom line, water should be ingested before, during, and after exercise. Before, I personally like to make sure I at least have 10 or an 8 to 10 ounce glass of water an hour before I exercise. For me, it helps me feel better. It helps me start to feel a little bit more hydrated. My joints feel smoother as I'm getting myself warmed up. But the biggest point that I have here underlined is it prevents dehydration. I'm going to go into a lot about dehydration in this presentation because it affects us as we age. So everyone that I hope that is watching this presentation, you understand after this how much it is important to just maintain hydration throughout the entire day. So again, what I mentioned before, your water is going to help you keep your joints lubricated. This is most important during our warm-up. So at joint effort, we make sure that you get a little bit of cardio exercise. We're going to have you be doing some mobility training, but making sure that you're hydrated is going to help all that synovial fluid that's in your joints. It's going to help move everything a little bit easier. So all that fluid within our joints comes from our water intake. So it's very important to make sure that we're ingesting water as much as we can before, during, and after exercise. What I do want to point out is if you are participating in intense exercise or activity, and we're going to go that lasts longer than an hour, you may want to make sure that you are taking in another source of fluid, which is some type of sports drink. So a sports drink and anything, not my favorites, but Gatorade is very helpful. Gatorade is very important because it has electrolytes in it. It's got sodium, it's got potassium, and that's what we want to make sure that we're doing after an intense amount of exercise. It's going to help us replenish the electrolytes. You really want to make sure that you're having something with carbohydrates and sodium, That sodium, again, is very important. You want to make sure that it's helping you get fluid in and around the cell. So make sure after any extended bout of activity, longer than an hour, please drink your water and make sure you have a little bit of some carbohydrates and sodium to help replenish those electrolytes that have gone missing. Okay, so big question, and this is something that you may have already doctor. I just really want to reiterate all these points so that way, if you think throughout the day, oh, I'm a little bit thirsty, that is the biggest component we say to everyone. If you feel a little thirsty, you're probably a little bit dehydrated. It's not scientifically to say, oh, I'm thirsty, I'm completely dehydrated, I need to freak out. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that thirst sensation lets us know that our body needs some fluid. So dehydration is defined as a significant loss of body fluid that impairs normal body function. So that normal body function, whether it's raising your hand, whether it's moving around, doing activity, washing the dishes, anything in particular. So this is extremely heightened risk for older adults. The biggest reason being that I find in research and everything is they soon have a loss of thirst sensation. This is just because that signal from our brain to alert us that we are a little bit thirsty becomes less sensitive as we age. I'm going to go over that a little bit further, and that just has to do with nerve loss and all the things that happen to us, unfortunately, as we age. So dehydration can be caused from numerous things, especially exercise, heat, excessive sweating, insufficient fluid intake, and medication side effects. This depends on the medications that you're taking, but you have to pay attention to your surroundings. So you want to make sure if you're exercising in warm weather, whenever the warm weather comes, you have to make just a water bottle with you. Make it a little bit fun for yourself. So again, excessive sweating, that also has to pertain not just to exercise, but the activities that you're doing. So activities that can really cause dehydration and that sweating component, you're going to have HIIT training, that's high intensity interval training. You're going to have gardening in warm temperatures for over an hour. Everyone, the activities that you do, from just cleaning to your exercise to your gardening, being outside and gardening is a very large component of our day-to-day lives. So what we have to be extremely precautious is, are you staying hydrated enough for this? So please remember also, and I did not mean to skip over this, but looking back, dehydration can also be caused from acute sickness, vomiting, diarrhea, and any fever or infection. So make sure, if you are feeling ill, if you're not feeling well, we want you to obviously talk to your doctor, but you also may want to explain to them that you haven't been staying adequately hydrated during this time as well. Okay, so symptoms of dehydration. There are a lot out there, and even these signs and symptoms are also considerations that we have to think about for after you find out that you're dehydrated. And it's really hard to tell within the research. There are ways that they diagnose whether you are dehydrated. This is something when you go to the doctor that they're going to classify you under grade 1, 2, or 3. But to go over some of the signs and symptoms that you may find and you want to love and pay attention to, you definitely may have a dry mouth and you will definitely feel that you're thirsty. Even myself right now, I'm going to take a little water. So make sure that if you feel any fatigue, any dizziness, any muscle cramps, a lot of the time we can feel that in the evening when we're going to bed. I'm not saying to get up and chug an ounce glass of water, but maybe just think about taking a few sips before you go to bed. And I know this is hard, and I hear this from people who have to get up 5, 6 times during the night to go to the bathroom. But if you just have a little bit of water, it's going to help you sleep and help those muscular cramps that you feel when you're sleeping in the evening. So other signs of dehydration we have are elevated heart rate. You're also going to have a low systolic blood pressure. You're going to find yourself a little bit in delirium. So that's really knowing who you are, what you're doing. It's that whole confusion aspect. And then also you can see that you have dark colored urine. So again, all of these are early signs, but they are also side effects if you are extremely dehydrated. So these can be non-specific and could easily be attributed to other medical conditions or natural side effects of aging. So all in all, what I want you to understand for dehydration is you have to be careful within your surroundings. You are all concerned about the way that you are feeling. You want to make sure that you contact whoever is around you, but you also want that you speak to your doctor or medical professional. This is extremely important, just again, our bodily function. If we're not staying hydrated enough, we'll be able to move and feel as good as we want to. So again, just be very aware of the symptoms that you may feel if you're dehydrated. I want you to always be careful, and we tell this to everyone, especially when we're exercise testing. If you have any dizziness, shortness of breath, fatigue, those are signs that can happen from exercise, but you have to make sure as well, this can also be a sign of dehydration. So please be very mindful about how you are feeling. So, risk of dehydration for older adults. This is very important for all of those who are watching over 50. you have to that you keep yourself hydrated, because the side effects that can happen and the risks that you put yourself at are chronic problems with urinary continence. So it is very aware that as we age again, so that thirst sensation is hard to combat when you're aging. So another issue that comes from this is that urinary problem. So you have to make sure that, even we're going to go into afterwards, but you have to make sure you're ingesting little by little. Again, you don't need to be drinking so much water at one time, but if you make sure that you're drinking 2 to 3 ounces every 10 minutes, that can help. That way it allows your body to uptake that water without rushing it down to your kidneys, in short. So other factors that can happen from dehydration are memory concerns, mobility concerns. So you may be forgetting to drink water, and that happens as we age. Memory goes as we age, but then all problems getting that water. But again, it goes hand in hand, because if you're drinking enough water, you're going to be helping your joints. You feel better, you're going to help them move better. And again, this is also a concern for those who have swallowing difficulties. This is something that you touch base with about your doctor, but it can also make yourself dehydrated if you have those issues. This is a very tricky topic, and I would much rather you to your doctor if you have concerns about swallowing and drinking water day in and day out. So the potential outcomes of being dehydrated, again, are very similar to those signs and symptoms, but it all goes hand in hand, you guys. And I can't express that importance. I want you to eat out, if you're reaching for a glass of water, if it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and you're like, oh my goodness, I haven't had any water today. I just want you to think of joint effort and say, you know what? I have to make sure I keep myself hydrated, because it's going to be important for everything that I do in and day out. You want to be able to avoid all of these outcomes that can happen. You can find yourself having difficulty just moving in general. You'll have some confusion, a rapid heart rate. Again, like I mentioned before, this could even be a sign and symptom. So that sign and symptom can then be something that you face in the long run. Not careful with it. You're at a higher risk of falling. Again, goes hand in hand with movement and walking. The reason why you're at a higher risk of falling is because of that confused state that you could be. You're also going to find that your kidneys are not going to work as readily. You're also going to find that you have urinary tract infections. This is something that happen in a very chronic condition of dehydration. I'm not saying that this is something that if you skip out drinking water for a few hours that you're going to have a UTI or you're going to have kidney concerns. All I'm saying is that along the road and chronically, these concerns can happen if you do not contain your water intake. So other severe concerns with dehydration are for anyone that has or anyone has Alzheimer's. Again, why these are very concerning and can get you to be dehydrated is because the forgetfulness of drinking water. So again, some tips that I came to my head, please download an app. Maybe if you have a smartphone and you find that it'll be more helpful for you to put in little reminders or have that app. So that way you can remind yourself, say, okay, it's been 2 hours and I haven't had any water. Start to drink a little bit more regularly so you can remind yourself more and more when you should be drinking water. So, like I mentioned in the very beginning, the amount of water that you intake varies person by person. Standards that I found through the Mayo Clinic and Harvard Health Network that really help us understand how much water we should be intaking. Now, the numbers that I laid out, they're specifically for older adults, anyone over the age of 50. So please, if you have a pen and paper, write these numbers down. It'll be very helpful. But just like exercise, it is best determined on an individual how much water you should be drinking. If you would like a more accurate number, please speak with your healthcare professional. And again, these numbers are from the National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, and it's determined that these numbers are an adequate daily fluid intake. So for adult men, what they recommend is of water, about 15.5 cups, which is 3.7 liters of fluids, are helpful for men on a day-to-day basis. And for women, about 11.5 cups of fluids a day are adequate enough to help keep yourself hydrated. So one thing you notice here that they even say, it's fluids. So fluid intake, and I know I keep harping on water, but that's just because water is above all the sugars and even coffee and tea. Water gives us the most amount of hydration. To go off on about coffee and tea, those are helpful. They get you your fluid, but the issue in them is caffeine. And caffeine and even the diuretic component when we're drinking it is going to make you use the bathroom often. So my piece of advice for that is if you want to have a cup of coffee, make sure you're having a cup of water as well. You're going to help counteract that fluid intake because you're going to end up using the bathroom from the coffee, but you're also giving yourself with that cup of water. So all in all, make sure that if you're a male, 15.5 cups a day is adequate. If you're a female, 11.5 cups a day of fluids. So just be careful of those sugary beverages. So again, this is also dependent upon your activity level, your age, and your health. So activity level is extremely important. Like I mentioned before, if you are doing anything excessive for an hour to an hour and a half, and it's not just exercise, cleaning. For those of you who have a lot of stairs in your home, I know that is a significant part, going up and down the house, cleaning the kitchen, cleaning the bathroom. If you find yourself that you're doing that for a good hour, 2 hours a day, you're going to want to make sure that you're giving yourself a little bit more water or just fluid in general. So another rule of thumb that I've added in down here that can help make it a little bit easier to imagine is that you use 2 to 3 glasses, 8-ounce glasses per hour. So that way you're not worried about, I have to get in 11.5 cups of water. Make sure that this amount of water that you're drinking is throughout the day. Not just be 3 glasses right before I eat dinner. It should not be 3 glasses right before I go to bed. Make sure you're trying to get in that 2 to 3 glasses of water per hour. So that way you're helping yourself stay hydrated at a very steady state throughout the day. You don't want to have those ups and downs. So I know I just mentioned a little bit of this. We're going to go into a little bit further, but key ways of staying hydrated. So drink water with every meal. Drink a glass before you have breakfast, drink a glass before you have lunch, and even during your lunch and your breakfast. That's also going to help maintain being hydrated. Eat foods with water. A lot of fruits and vegetables are really a significant amount of water. So good sources of water and vegetables, you've got 92% in spinach, you've got 96% in cucumber, and 92% in peppers. These are just a few examples compared to the endless amounts of fruits and vegetables that are mostly water out there. So make sure that if you're not doing due diligence to drink enough water or throughout the day, try to add in some of those vegetables to your lunches, to your dinners, and even with the fruits. Say you are like me and you have, you're almost addicted to sugar. Having any fruits that have water in them can help that. You're going to have watermelon at 92% water, grapefruit percent water, and strawberries are 92% water. These are ones that have a large amount of water, but again, there are others out there. These are just a few examples I wanted to provide you guys with. So that way, if you're worried that you're not drinking enough, you can always add those in to your daily meals to still get more water. And again, like I said in the slide previous, or I just said myself, alternatives to water, coffee, tea, and low carbohydrate sports drinks. So Gatorade has come out with versions of lower amounts of carbs in their sports drinks, and it still has sodium and electrolytes to help replenish you during those extended bouts of activity and exercise. So make sure that, like I said before, are drinking coffee or tea or these sports drinks, you want to make sure that you're also drinking a little bit of water on the side. Myself personally, when I'm drinking Gatorade, I add a little bit with some water as well. So that way I'm making sure I'm getting that water intake. I'm also making sure I'm getting that electrolyte intake. So one question that throughout all of this, I'm sure some of you may have, because we've gone over the definition of dehydration. We've gone over numerous ways about how to keep hydrated. One question I hope you may have had is, how do I know if I am well hydrated? The way you can tell is if you rarely feel thirsty. Throughout the day, again, if you're making sure that you're getting your water intake in, you may feel less thirsty. Like I said before, this again for those who are older, because you lose that sensation of thirst as we age. So you have to, it's, a little bit counteractive of what I'm saying here. But another way that you can really tell for all of those who are watching, take a look at the color of your urine. If your urine is colorless or pale, indicator that your kidneys are taking in that water, they're filtrating all that through your urine, and you're going to see that is colorless and just slightly pale yellow. So I'm going to move us a little bit closer because I find, and I'm going to read this slide off to you guys, but I found a very good picture to help describe the best times to drink water. And again, it's going to sound a little bit redundant because I've been saying this presentation right now, but this is just a great visual for you to see on, when should I be drinking water? Down here at the bottom, and again, like I mentioned before, we want to make sure that women get at least 11 and a half cups of water throughout the day, and men get anywhere from a and a half cups of water a day. So 3 glasses is a very low amount per day for water. 9 glasses is about normal. And again, going to change depending on your activity level. And 24 glasses is rather high. Now, just to note, there is a thing as being too hydrated. So you have to be careful about that as well. But again, to reiterate, if you're really looking to find an adequate amount of water for you to drink day in and day out, make sure you consult that with your doctor, or if you have a nutritionist, they should be able to help you as well. So some good times for you to drink water are going to be when you first get up. So I had a friend of mine, Kara Gansel. She's mentioned before to my members that you should take a glass of water with you to bed, and then don't drink it all, because again, you don't want to have to get up 5-6 times in the evening. Have that water at your bedside when you wake up in the morning. So one thing that's going to help you feel more awake, if you drink that water, it's going to help you feel bright at 5-6 o'clock in the morning, whatever time we wake up. Make sure you drink water before each meal. Like I mentioned, drink it before you have breakfast, drink it before lunch. Even make sure that you have water with a meal. Drink water with a snack. So this is, overall nutrition. George did a great presentation on this a few weeks ago. Just make sure that you're stoking your fire. You're eating something throughout the day. I mean, a good steady state, good homeostasis. And we want to make sure that you're drinking water with that as well. So drink water before a workout and drink water after a workout. What I really inserted in here, like I mentioned before, we want to make sure you're also drinking water during your workout. If you're like me, you're going to be sweating significantly, but there are also some people who do not sweat activity. All in all, just make sure that you're maintaining that fluid intake. It's going to just create a very healthy habit that you're drinking your water before, during, and after a workout or exercise. And have water with your medication if you're allowed. This is something that your doctor will be better at telling you about. Diuretics are, again, to make sure you're staying hydrated and drinking enough fluid. Again, this one's a very touchy subject, so this with your doctor. Drink more water to prevent illnesses and following exposures. So, meaning, I said this in a few slides back, if you're sick, if you have a fever, your body's going to be giving off water. You're going to be sweating because your heat and everything, your body's trying to fight infection. So you want to make sure that you're keeping yourself during that time so you don't end up getting dehydrated. And having a glass of water when you're tired. Water and, the properties, H2O, hydrogen, and oxygen is going to help you feel more awake. Sometimes a glass of water can help you feel better and more awake than a cup of coffee. And for that oxygen and being uptaken into our bloodstream, into our muscles, it's going to just help you feel better. So drink your water. And on that note, I'm going to take a little water break. So over to the side, like I said, and I can send out this presentation if everyone wants this as a good visual. I'll gladly send it over closer to you guys, so that way you can print this up and print this out and put it on your fridge. That way you have it, we go into the fridge day in and day out. If you're like me, I have a water pitcher and I find that more helpful to me than the sink. So if I have this in my fridge, I'm not going to go I'm going to go just maybe an hour without seeing it. So I have just a few hydration tips. So mentioning before, drink your fluids gradually throughout the day. This is going to help make that you're not getting in that dehydrated state. And I have to really press on the dehydration component because, like I said, as we age and as we get older, we're more likely dehydrated because we have that loss of thirst sensation. So if you just remind yourself, putting it in your phone, putting it up on your fridge, there are plenty examples of water calendars to make sure that you stay on a good schedule of drinking water throughout the day. And again, like I said, this is gradual. Please don't think that you should be chugging 5 glasses of water within an hour, because that's not really a good thing for your kidneys. So think of all of our body this water has to go through, and you don't want to just overwhelm yourself by having too much water. Oh my. Well, I want to shout out to everyone real quick here, because my computer was telling me that you're all here. So I really can't thank you guys enough for sticking in me. We're almost done. But going back to our final tips. If you feel hungry, drink some water. Often enough, the feeling of being satiated, the feeling of being full, can be done by having some water. So if you're looking to watch your weight, again, if you're also looking to maintain hydration, drinking your water, it's going to help you feel fuller longer. Eat plenty of foods that contain water. That's a lot of our fruits, that's a lot of our vegetables. So if you need some more help, I'm more than happy to send over examples of fruits and veggies that have a very sufficient amount of water in them. And please avoid sugary beverages. When I first started drinking coffee, I like to have, it was just basically sugar and cream. Now I've changed my ways. I barely even, I would say, a teaspoon of sugar. So make sure if you're having, and I know a lot of my clients and even my dad himself really enjoy drinking cocoa. If you do, don't add as much sugar into it. That's going to be a better alternative. If water isn't your favorite, you can add in certain flavorings. There are out there, crystal lights. So just think that avoiding the sugar content in your fluids that you is going to be better functioning for your body. So make it fun. I put down, get yourself a mug, a tumbler, and make that whatever you use, whatever vessel of your choice, devote that just to be your water. My clients see every single day a 40-ounce hydro flask. And I make sure that throughout my day of work, I go through at least one, even maybe two of them. But again, we're all different. So for example, I recommend to my clients that one that's maybe about 20 ounces. Make sure you're drinking that during your exercise routine. Make sure you're drinking that when you're out in your garden. Please, it's going to just help you maintain. So one thing that I've been mentioning is download an app to help you tracking your daily water intake. If there are a lot of fun ones out there, we found one for my gardening crew out there. You can download one that plant and grow. So if you add in that you had 8 ounces of water before your breakfast, you're helping yourself grow. So I'm trying to make this a little bit more fun, a little bit more interactive. Do not enjoy drinking water and, you know, and I cannot stress this enough. I've said it so many presentation. Please, please, please make sure you're drinking water before, during, and after exercise. And like I said before, electrolyte drinks, there are a lot of them out there, but like I said with the Gatorade, those are going to be very essential for doing any excessive amount of activity hour long. So, final note I really, really would like to hone in on is doctor or a medical professional if you are concerned with the amount of fluid that you are intaking. Have heart concerns, kidney concerns. This is something that you should be speaking about with your doctor. You're going to a more adequate number of how much you should be drinking throughout the day. Sometimes these numbers are going to be less than what I've mentioned. Sometimes they can be more than what I mentioned. So please, any concerns that you truly do have about how much water you should be intaking, consult that with your nutritionist. But again, don't forget, make sure you're drinking 2 to 3 glasses of water every hour. That's not going to hurt. It's just going to help maintain balance of water and fluid intake throughout our entire day. So, for anyone that has any questions or concerns, please go ahead and comment below. But that is all that I have for some very, I hope, helpful hydration tips for anyone that's adult and over the age of 50. So, thank you.